welcome back to another edition of Live from Redhook. We're here at the Function House. Tonight we have a very special guest, DJ Skribbles.
That's me.
What's up, Skribs?
What's going on?
Thanks for
Welcome
coming.
to the show.
What's going on, brother?
Welcome to Redhook.
Redhook BK, Brooklyn finest.
You've been here before, right?
Yeah.
IKEA shopping?
Yeah.
Have you checked out any of the restaurants down here?
No, I haven't actually. I don't ever get a chance to really leave my house much unless I'm working.
You got to come down here more.
I would like to.
You got to come down. You got to bring the
You're gonna
fam.
watch my kids?
Yeah, bring them here. We'll bring them to the Function House.
I'm sure
We
they
got
can
some
find
games
something to
in
do
the
in
back.
here.
Yeah,
So what's up, man?
Nothing. Just been, still thank God doing my thing. Just, I don't know. What are we on? 30 plus years now?
Wow.
30 years DJing.
More than 30 plus. I started in 1980. Probably before most of you were born.
I was born in 1980.
Yeah. So was my wife.
I was born in 78. Yeah, you're 10 years. You got 10 years on me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I started in 1980.
What made you start DJing?
I seen this kid in the park, actually, in Elmont, in Long Island, after I moved out of Queens to Elmont. And this kid named DJ Squiggy, I tell the story every time. And he was doing this park thing or whatever, and I said, what the hell is going on? And it was just like drawn to it, and became friends with him. Used to go to his house every day after school and try to practice, whatever, until I got my first set of turntables.
So you were 12 years old.
Yeah, I was 11. I got my first set around 12, but I had a pair of SLB 100 straight drive with a rubber band, the belt-driven turntables, and I had to learn to DJ on that with a GLI mixer, and started, had a paper out, and that
So
was.
you're the first one who didn't have the Scratch Master.
Gemini Scratch. That was before the Gemini
was
Scratch.
before that.
But
and then-
GLI was like the shit back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Was
Had
it like
the
the
wood-
was it the
wood panels.
two-channel
it
mixer?
was a two-channel mixer, and
Okay.
I had a Radio Shack mixer too. Remember when Radio Shack
Yep.
made them? And then
Realistic.
I was, had a paper out to buy my records. And I did my first gig when I was 14 at Roller Castle in Long Island with Dr. Dre from Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, Dougie Fresh, LL Cool J, Public Enemy before they were even really Public Enemy. And Flavor Flav just still had his show on WBAU, and I sucked. I was horrible. I got kicked off the turntables within like 10 minutes. And Dre was DJing, and I'll never forget, he was on the floor, I was in the DJ booth, he just looked up to me, he's like, one day, son. Like, you know what I mean? And I was horrible. But that's how I kind of got to meet, the whole Spectrum City and the Bomb Squad with Hank Shockley, and eventually got into the Young Black Teenagers, 5 white guys calling themselves black, produced by Public Enemy and the Bomb Squad, and
That was a special moment.
a special moment. Very special
So
moment.
talk to us how that whole thing came about. Like, how did all the members of that group
I
come
was
together?
working at Rogers Stereo, and that's how I met my first manager, Gary G. Wiz. And then I knew Firstborn because he used to date my sister. ATA was my best friend, who also used to date my sister. A lot of people dated my sister, I guess. It is what it is. But, and then Firstborn knew Tommy Neva, and Gary G. Wiz knew Cameron. And they kind of brought us all together, and we would go to Gary's studio in Freeport and just rehearse and put stuff together, and kept going and going. And then we got our deal on Soul MCA when Hank got his label, and we did our first album, Meet the Teenagers, which was the Beatles cover. And then from there we started touring, and Public Enemy took us out on the road. Our first show was overseas in the Docklands Arena in London. I'll never forget it. And we went over there with like no money in our pockets, with all this equipment, no work visas. We were supposed to go meet up with Leo Cohen to get our per diems and Russell and everything. And we got there, and they wouldn't let us in the country because they knew what we were going to do. And we were trying to lie and say that. And then we were in immigration for like 6 hours. We thought we were going to miss the show.
Yeah.
We had all this gear. And remember calling back to New York, and Russell and Hank were on the phone like, we don't give a damn what happens to these guys, but we need to get that equipment to Public Enemy. So they finally let us go, and then we went and did the show, and they announced us, and everything was like, in this big arena. And then they announced the Young Black Teenagers, and 5 white guys got on stage, and then they started throwing stuff at us. Booing us. I got hit with a pair of glasses. I kept DJing. I didn't care. And that was our first big break into the music industry. It was us, EPMD, MC Tragedy, and Public Enemy. And We Papa Girls.
How long was that tour for?
About 3 or 4 months, I think. Yeah, 3 or 4 months. And then by the time we got to Germany, it started to shift, and people started to respond to us. And we did our whole first show off of Breakbeats. Our album wasn't even done yet. And then when we came back to the States, we did the first album. And our first single was first single was Proud to Be Black. 5 white guys.
You were
Proud to
doing
Be
the
Black.
production on all the
No. The Bomb Squad did all the production on that first album, and we all had part of the writing and stuff like that. But I mean, the album was Eric Sadler, Keith Shockley, Hank, the whole Bomb Squad.
So what was going through your head while this whole experience was happening?
I never, in a million years, I never thought it would take it to the level that I took it. But it was just, I was this hip hop junkie, like engulfed in hip hop culture, from graffiti to the DJing. I mean, I couldn't rhyme. I sucked as an MC. But the graffiti and the DJing, I used to, I was a boogie boy popping and stuff.
What was your tag?
I used to tag SKO, SKO. And then that's how I got Skribble. You know what I mean? When we started to move on. And, just being around, coming around the leaders of the new school, and then Son of Berserk, and then being around PE, and then being on the road with them, whenever we did a tour, Sisters of Mercy or the Anthrax tour, all these different things we got to do. I mean, that was like college for me, because I was straight out of school, And this was like 1987, 88, the first time I ever went on the road. And then
like hip hop was making a movement back then.
It was a little tiny little baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just watching this thing grow. I mean, it was obviously so diversified, and just this amazing sound and all these different styles, and everybody was just, you had to be so dope just to get in the door. If you weren't dope, you couldn't get down, and then we came home, and then we did the Dead Ends Kids doing Lifetime Bids, which we did Tap the Bottle, and that was the record that took us, out of here.
That was a huge record.
It was I'll never forget when I saw like a cover band do it, and I was like, this is crazy, you know what I mean? But, we got a lot of play off of that, and it took me around the world for 5 years, and then I left the group, and then I was doing college radio at WRHU with Jeff Foss.
You left the group around what year?
92. I left the group, and then I was doing college radio, and then I got my break on Hot 97 in around 95.
at the morning show, right?
No, it was actually the Saturday Night Dance Party, and it was play house music.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Which
right.
I
That's
hated
right.
at the time. I hated house music, which now I live for house music.
And how did that, see that's like when I crossed paths with you back then, because we were doing Metropolis.
Right, well,
And you used to come around to Metropolis.
I mean, Metropolis was my home.
That was
Yeah.
a big thing, because
Thursday nights.
Thursday nights, they used to put you on stage. You used to
and
do a whole
do
show
the
on
routine.
stage.
Yep, and then
And they used to have, I don't know if you remember, they had like that Hawaiian Tropics thing going on at the same time as your show. So like they would do that, then you would go on like right after that show and just blow it up.
thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was amazing. It was an amazing time because there wasn't that many people doing it and doing it the way I was doing it, and coming up that way. And then I got my break on Hot 97 finally, because I was traveling around with Dre. Dre was, if it wasn't for Dr. Dre, I would have never have met Charlie Stetler, who was my manager, who got me on MTV. I was doing little episodes here and there of MTV Raps with Dre and Ed, and they would put me on. Like I did the final episode, which I'll never forget to this day, of the final episode of MTV Raps, when I got to DJ for everybody from
Props to the hat.
from Rakim to KRS-One and EPMD and everybody that came out, and I was the dude behind the turntables doing it, and just they finally came to me like, yo, we got a show for you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to play hip hop on Hot 97. And it was like, Glenn Frisch is leaving and you have to do house, and it's gonna be the Saturday Night Dance Party, which went from club to club.
Yep.
And my first show was at the Palladium, and I called DJ Razor up, and I'm like, yo, dude, like, help me, because I don't know what the freak to play. I mean, I knew Todd Terry and Bango and shit like that, but it was like, I don't know what to do. And Razor was literally hand feeding me records, and I was like, I hate this shit. I don't want to do this. I hate house music. You know what I mean? But I did it, and then I'll never forget. It was like the third weekend. I'm at Wave Street in Staten Island, and this Guido comes up to me, and he's like, where's Glenn Fisher? I'm like, who are you? He goes, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, he's like, I'm Anthony Anson. I'm like, well, I'm Skribble. Glenn Fisher don't work here no more. And then that's how I met Anthony. And then Anthony and I became best of friends, and 3 months after that, I moved into his house. Go figure. And then me and Anthony became partners, and then they took me to, it's right at the Sound Factory closed, and Jason Ojeda, Motomo, Razor, and all of them took me to the Tunnel, because Junior Vasquez was just, Sound Factory had just closed, and they took me over. They're like, you're coming out with us. It was after the show. I'm like, I don't want to do this. They took me out, And I can't get really into exactly what happened that night, but just say I was like Puffy and, you know, to get me from the Greek, holding a wall like this at one point. And
You saw God?
I saw God. And I never seen anything like that in my life, the energy that I saw in this music. And then I went back the next week and totally just was drinking water or whatever. And I was like, I want to be the first DJ to play house music and hip hop. I want to be the first DJ to live in both worlds, because it was unheard of, you know, at the time. And then I just fell in love with this energy in the music, and I went and did all my, you know, homework and history of Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles and all these DJs that came and started that. Just like I knew, you know, who was who and the godfathers of hip hop culture, I needed to know what was going to be in the dance culture, because if I take them on, I have to do it 110%. I don't know any other way.
So do you think a lot of these young DJs are doing that today?
They don't have a clue. I'm not trying to dish anybody, but no, they don't. And it's crazy because you have the power at your fingertips to know history. And I'm not saying you need to know it like be a scholar. I mean, you should. I mean, it's just the way I do things. But like, there's so much more knowledge you can gain by knowing, you know, where techno came from, or deep house came from, or Chicago house came from, or, you know, where it all started and how it started, to make you a better producer or a better DJ or more knowledgeable of music. Because there's so much out there more than just kids that are getting it in today and just know EDM or just know dubstep or just know trap. You know what I mean? There's this whole big world that all of these things were influenced that give you this, what you have today. That you make the music that you make. It came from somewhere else first.
Right.
And all I'm saying is, like, learn that, know that, because it's only going to make you a better producer, a better DJ.
So you had this experience at the tunnel.
Yes.
And then take us
and then it was like Hot 97 switched from the dance party, and then like, you can't play house music anymore on Hot 97. I'm like, damn, I want to keep playing house music. And I used to get in trouble for it. But then I got on the morning show with Dre and Ed, which started the traffic jams. And we started traffic jams, and then that was about, I don't know, I guess 96.
So this was all around the time of Cancun, Spring Break.
Yeah, we just started doing Cancun, Spring Break. I was doing Jam on the Groove with the Rocksteady crew and Get Original Dances at the Minetta Lane Theater, and then I did the new Victory Theater with Bill Irwin on Broadway. I had my Broadway show, Hip Hop Wonderland, that we were the first show to open up that theater when they just had cleaned up Times Square and cleaned up 42nd Street. So we did that, and then fast forward to 1998, and I won the Mountain Dew DJ championships, and they couldn't use Flex because Flex couldn't, you know, he wasn't a turntablist. Great DJ, he just wasn't do what I did.
Yeah.
So they had me represent the station. I won, and 2 weeks later I got fired because obviously I couldn't be the #1 DJ because Flex was the #1 DJ, and I thought my life was over. I was like, I'll never, because I had to do Metropolis.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry about that, buddy.
That's all right.
I had to do Metropolis that night, and that was with Slinky, and I would never forget. I was a mess in the parking lot, crying, hey, my life is over. And then right after that, we got the phone call to do Spring Break in Negril, Jamaica, and it was pretty much bring your wreckage, go down there, do the grind with Brandy and Jay-Z, and then all of a sudden it was like, you want to do Jerry Springer? And then I did the Jerry Springer show with them, and then it was like, you want to do this? You want to do that? And then it was like, you know, whatever Spring Break shows needed music, they got me. And then the summertime came, and it was the Jersey Shore Beach House, and my manager comes to me like, we got you your own show. And I'm like, really, on MTV? Oh my God, this is great. It's an exercise show called The Daily Burn. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're trying to end my career right now? Which was the best thing I ever did, because it literally was. I was DJing for a bunch of people, exercising, but it worked out because then I got MTV Jams with Tyrese. And how that came about is, it originally was supposed to go to Flex. And Flex was like, he wasn't street enough at the time, so he didn't want to do it. And then they gave it to me, and then that was it. The rest was history.
And this was all within like a 2 year period.
This was all within a 2-year period, and it just was like a rocket ship, and just hold on like for dear life.
Wow.
Now, what was that show you did? Wasn't there a show that you did with Cindy Margolis?
Yep, and then I did the Cindy Margolis
That was
show
on
on
Channel
CBS.
2, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
CBS. Yeah.
And how long did that run for?
1 season, it was miserable. It was terrible. Yeah. I already know that.
But you got a lot of these opportunities, which was
I mean, I've had so many opportunities. I mean, I was the first person to DJ in Times Square during, you know, New Year's Eve. I was the first person to do Super Bowl as a DJ with the NFL and Pro Bowl, and, you know, I had my own toy. I mean, it was just like, I can't, you know, imagine, you know, the people that I've gotten to work with, from, you know, DJing for Biggie before his album was even out, when Mark Pitch and Puffy were going around to Checkers restaurants for Hot 97 promotions, and I'm using Mad Lion, and he's doing Unbelievable over Mad Lion beats, like, before his album was even done, you know? And then I wanted to do my own album after Flex did 60 Minutes of Funk, and that's when I came up with Traffic Jams, and we did the first album, and I had Lauryn Hill, Praz, I had all the Fugees on it because I did their album. Yeah. And
you did a couple of Traffic Jams, right?
I did 2. Traffic Jams 1 and Traffic Jams 2000.
When was the first one that you did?
Traffic Jams 1 was the first one. That's the
What
one with
year was
Lauryn
that?
Hill. That was 98, and then 98, 99, yeah.
Wow, so you're coming up on 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm ready to do Traffic Jams 3,
Nice.
which I can't wait, I want to do. But it's a whole different time. It's just like, the music's changed, the whole vibe has changed, but like if you could get that, capture that essence and bring in that young audience and give them that head knock, but still keep it updated so where they're in their own style and in their own lane, and make them understand it. You just gotta spoon feed it.
Where do you think this music is going right now? Where do you think hip hop is going?
Truthfully, I mean, not saying that we're aged out, but as we get older, we like what we like. You know, we want to knock our head, and we want to hear somebody spit and be like, ugh, you know? But the kids today, they want to hear that slow tempo, trappy style stuff, and, you know, unless you're drinking Sizzurp or, you know, on Xanax, I mean, that's what you like, then fine, I get it. You know what I mean? It's just not for me. You know, I play it, because if I want to work, I have to. I mean, some of it's dope, don't get me wrong, but it's just, there's no diversity. You know, when you went back and you listened to a KRS-One or a Rakim, or let's even go past that, and you listen to a Mobb Deep, and you know, Dipset and Cameron and all these different artists that were out, Wu-Tang Clan and all this stuff, it was diverse. You knew everybody had a sound, everybody had a style. Today it's one sound. There's no diversity. And nobody's spitting. You got that kid Afrocentric that Premier just did his album. He's nasty. And he ain't getting no light. You know what I mean? Method Man and Redman just did a new record. It's retarded. You hear it anywhere?
No.
Nope. It is what it is.
So
it's unfortunate.
So when you're playing now, mostly, what are you playing?
Open format. It depends though. Like some nights I'm playing all straight up house. Some nights I'm doing Anthony House, playing tech house. I mean, I love playing everything.
And the production that you've been doing is mostly house music, right?
House, and you know, and then we're working with another artist, this girl from Brooklyn that we've been working with. A little more urban pop stuff, but it all depends. You know, I got my little brother Sal Lodato, who was here last time, not too long ago,
Yeah,
and you know, I've been really just putting so much time and energy into him because you know he's the young one. He's the one that's going to carry that torch, and he's learned the right way. And he came from records, and his kid was 14 years old DJing in Sound Factory, the new Sound Factory.
Yeah.
You know, so he's been on this train for a while, and he's got people in his corner playing, from Fergie to Little John and Tiesto and Freddie LeGrand playing his stuff. You know, it's an awesome thing. We got a record coming out, me and him together on Robbie Rivera's label on Juicy. You know, so watching him, I learned from him now. I'm not ashamed to admit that because he's got his ear to the street. He's got his ear to the young kids.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And as we get older, sometimes you lose that. Not that you lose it, but I like what I like. You like what you like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Does that make it wrong for what these kids want to hear? And if you want to keep in this business, you got to stay and with your ear to the street and know what these kids like, or you're out of a job.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into the game?
Don't do it.
Today?
No, I'm kidding. It's not so much advice. It's just, it used to be where it was a handful of people who were doing it, and you had to be dope to do it, whether you were an MC, a dancer, an actor, or anything. And now you got to have great social media and get a little buzz and following and know how to put some loops together and, make some music and you can get on. I mean, it's that easy. You get that lucky break because you have the internet is a double-edged sword. As much as people don't use it sometimes for the right reasons, but again, one click of the button, you're global. There's not like when we were coming up where when I would go to Japan for the first time and someone knew who I was, I'm like, how the hell is that even possible?
Yeah.
Because they had to have a physical product to buy or hear a cassette tape. You know, a cassette tape is a little thing like this, and it has these little 2 holes in it, and you used to put it in a little radio, and then you'd hit play. It had tape. And now, you know, everything's digital. So, I mean, it's just instant. Everything's instant, where you had to discover that artist or discover that record and go record shopping, where now you just go on the internet. Am I talking too much?
No,
Okay,
this
I'm
is
just
great.
Yeah, I'm just.
It's
This is
great.
great. So do you
Making a lot of
miss
sense.
the vinyl aspect of it, or have you embraced the technology?
No, I listen, technology to me, I love technology. I'm a tech animal. I love it. I mean, my setup is, you know, full of technology, but the roots are still those turntables. I have to feel that vinyl. I have to.
So even when you play house music?
No, yes, actually, yes. I mean, unless you're outside doing a party on a beach or in a pool party, and yeah, I don't mind CDJs. I have no problem with kids that use controllers because that's what you learned on, but use it right. You know what I mean? If you're gonna, you know, I started on turntables, and you got a lot of guys out there, you're not a DJ unless you play on turntables. That's not true. There's so much you could do with the technology if you make it work for you, and you're working that piece of gear, and you're working that equipment, and you're being creative enough to let me hear something that I've never heard before. And he was like, oh my God, did you hear what he did? He mixed this, he took this loop, he's got 5 decks going, he's doing this. That's awesome. What's wrong with that? It's when you sit there and you're coming out and you're just in sync and you downloaded your top 100 off of DJ City and you sound like everybody else. I don't care.
Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing how to play music.
Well, yeah, of course, absolutely. And knowing how to program a room, when to
Programming's the
drop
most
a record,
important.
when to do, you know, when to play that one record that's going to take those people to the pinnacle of their orgasm in, you know, in the club, you know?
Yep.
No, you're right. You're right.
You know, and that unfortunately too, like, I feel like the festivals have kind of ruined that a little bit because most kids' introductory to this music and to electronic music is a festival. And they don't know what it's like to go see a DJ play for 8 hours and just take a room under their control and rock. One DJ, not 6, one DJ from beginning to end, or you have an opener and a closer, but the one main DJ, and he takes you on a ride. There's very few people that could do that anymore. And that do that anymore. And I blame some of that on the promoters because the promoters feel like, okay, I don't have to work as hard. Let me get 10 DJs, pay them $1, and give them a bottle, but they got to bring 50 people. Oh, look, my club is packed.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
And that's what's happened, and that's what's ruined the nightlife industry and club industry to no end. And it's a shame because it used to be like, you know, you went to go see Boris, or you went to go see Flex, or you went to go see, you know, Junior, you went to go see Danny here, you went to a club and you couldn't hear certain music unless you went to that club. Like, I need to hear that song. Well, the only way you were getting that was if you went to that club to hear it.
Well, I think that
It was
what's-
magical.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's missing today, and we speak about it all the time on the show, is the residencies. And a DJ building that following. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But
it
nobody
doesn't exist. Like,
but no, because the bottle service kind of ruined. And I'm not hating on it because you got to make money. At the end of the day, I love what I do, but I still got to feed my kids, and the club owners still got to feed their kids and the promoter. So you got to put asses in the seats, as they say.
Yeah.
And right now, asses in the seats are these things with a bottle in front of you. That's making your revenue.
Yep.
You know, but you've taken away from the culture, and you've taken away from the quality. You know, you could still have all that, but put someone in there, you know, that's going to sound different and make a difference. And you pay him a little bit of extra money, and he DJs a little bit longer. You don't need 5 DJs to make your room hot. Get behind one DJ like they used to. Like Boris came out of, like, people got behind him. Promoters got behind him and built him up. The Eric Murillos, all these guys. These guys were DJs first that became producers. Now you're a producer that becomes a DJ. It's a big difference. So you have no clue of what that ride or that journey is. You know how to make a record, no doubt. You know what I mean? Some of these guys are so talented, it's ridiculous. But you can't hold a room for more than an hour and a half.
yep.
You know? I mean, and I think that's where, and it's a fine line to change that, but it's so hard because it's a victim of its own hugeness, let's just say, because it's a $1 billion industry, and people don't want to lose money, and there's no risk anymore, which I can understand to a point. But if you the whole idea was to build that, go to a club and get that experience. A festival is like going to have an experience. You know, these kids would rather save up all their shekels and go see 30 DJs, you know, that for a weekend, they'd go to a club every week and just see that one dude and be like, this is the shit. I think it'll never come. I'm not, you know, I think I was very lucky. You were lucky to grow up in that time. I think you'll never see that again. And you just have to adapt. That's evolution, though. It's like anything else.
Well, I think it.
I'm not mad at it, but
I think that scene is now becoming like an underground scene.
Yes. You know, the outputs of like in Brooklyn.
So I think that there is a movement, and I think that it'll be this underground thing for a while. Will it ever become mainstream again? Probably not. No. I mean, who knows?
I disagree. I don't think it will.
But I think that's I think that makes it cool in that sense. So we definitely want to get you on the decks.
But you do have a lot of stuff that's going on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got a new TV show that we're working on right now. We start shooting in 12 days on TLC.
Okay.
That should air I believe, in the fall. Okay. And it's a pretty cool vibe. I'm not allowed to like talk about what it is, but it's 100% happening. It's a full season.
Okay.
I got that, and then obviously the projects that I'm working on with my brother. And working with this girl, Chetty, from Staten Island, who used to live in Brooklyn, and we're working with her. And just little projects, touring still, thank God. I still get to go and be me and get to go and play clubs.
You did a thing with the Troops not too long ago, right?
Yeah, I was the first DJ ever to headline a USO tour. And I was funny because I was trying to find a supporting act to come over with me. And I asked a lot of people, and this is right when the war was going on. And I'll never forget, it was at one of the DJ expos, and I saw Tretch backstage from Naughty by Nature. And I was like, yo, I got this thing. I want to go. He's like, when are we leaving? And then we made it happen. And then I do a lot of stuff for the military, any chance I could get, because my dad, I was born on Otis Air Force Base, and my dad was Air Force. My grandfather was in the military, both sides. So
where did you go to do this show? Where was it? What part of it?
I was in Iraq. I was in Tikrit, which ISIS has now. I was on a fob up on the border of Syria, which somebody asked me, what was the most memorable gig you ever had? I said, the most gratifying gig I ever did was on a fob, which means forward operating base, on the border of Syria in a mess tent for 70 troops. And the commanding officer came up to me, ripped his combat patch off his arm. He goes, this has been in a lot of shit. And he goes, and I want you to have it because you came to see me. And I will never forget that as long as I live. Wow. It was the most...
moving.
Yeah, it was that, and I did Qatar Air Force Base about 2 years ago for New Year's Eve.
Yep.
You know, and any chance I get to do stuff for the troops, because they don't, you know, you go over there and you see these kids, and obviously I'm a lot older than them now, and you know, these kids are 18, 19 years old, and you're like, you look at them like, they're protecting us, you know what I mean? Like, and they didn't ask to be there, so whether you support a war, whether you don't support a war, not to get political, you got to support them, because they're just there doing their job.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not, they don't want to be there. You know what I mean? But they're sacrificing their lives. Their families are sacrificing their lives for you. So I could be here right now chilling, just talking shit on TV. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or just going out to a club. You know what I mean? They're not in a club. They're in a foxhole. They're in a desert. They're in somewhere cold. They're not home with their families. And it means a lot to me. I'm a very big dude with that.
You have more stuff like that coming up? Are you going to...
Whenever it comes up, the opportunities come up, I might be, supposedly, I got asked about something with the Marines. I just came back from Okinawa. I did that not too long ago. I did that with Das Effects and Black Sheep. That was awesome on a Marine base. So, yeah, whenever the opportunity arises, and I'll do it, hands down.
Where's the next place you're traveling to? Anything coming up?
I got Vito's thing in Long Island on Saturday with Razor, Jason Ojeda, Hex Hector, everybody, for the big tribute for him, for his mom and his family. And then just going to be shooting the show, like pretty much. And then on like home stuff, like I coach football too, so it's just like my big thing. Nice. So I coach my kids in football.
So after all this, you're a dad too?
Yeah, I'm a dad too. I try to be. Like, you know, when I go home, it's like take out the garbage. We don't give a shit about DJ Skribbles. Take out the garbage. You know, so yeah.
How many kids do you have?
Three.
Wow,
two boys, Scott, Frank, and Rosie.
Are you going to let them get into the DJ game?
Actually, my son Scott is learning the guitar. My son Frank's learning the drums right now. And Rosie's just Rosie.
Rosie got
she's
two
the
older
queen.
brothers.
Yeah, no, I'm her bitch. Pretty much. I'm her bitch. Whatever she wants, she gets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Daddy's little girl.
Daddy's little girl.
So you got something planned for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a little couple of things. Play some old school maybe, some classics.
Okay.
Fuck around. Why not?
Well, we're excited.
I've cursed, I'm sorry.
No, you can
sorry.
curse.
No, my kids are watching. Sorry.
okay.
Sorry, guys.
Well, Function House is play whatever you want and jam out here.
And we're excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll get Skribs up on the turntables.
Peace.